I turned to the book of Judges, and yes, I'm still on it. Gideon. It's in Judges chapter 6, verse 11. Just a couple of verses. Now, you should know the story of Gideon. If you don't, you should read it when you get a chance. I don't want to go over the whole story right now, but it's a story that we're going to use today to springboard into our lesson. It's Judges chapter 6, verses 11 and 12. Now the angel of the Lord came and sat under the terebinth tree, which was in Ophrah, which belonged to Joash, the Abiezrite, while his son Gideon threshed wheat in the winepress in order to hide from the Midianites. And the angel of the Lord appeared to him and said to him, "The Lord is with you, you mighty man of valor." I just want to stop it there for a moment and just talk about two words today, which is the word endurance and the word suddenly. And this lesson today is for those who at times have felt like heaven was brass and you didn't have a hammer. Just nothing. Like they would say today, a glass ceiling. But I like brass because it's more biblical. Let me just say this. Delays are not deadly. They're not deadly. Failure is not fatal. Failure is not fatal. And pressures are not permanent. They change. They change. Everything changes. Life is like the seasons of the weather. They are constantly changing. I think back at my own life, 20 years, 30 years, 25, 10 years, 5 years, how everything has changed. It just keeps changing. It just keeps on constantly changing. And what you're going through today, you probably will not be going through next year. It changes. And you need to understand that. And Gideon is a man who was enduring under extreme pressures from the enemy. And he was hiding. I want you to make sure you get that now. He was under pressure and he was hiding. He was hiding from the enemy. And I know there's no one in this room who has ever felt like hiding from the enemy. But I must tell you, I have. And when we were going over to India this last time, I remember when we took off from Seattle, that we were upgraded to first class, which meant you got to sleep in a bed, in an airplane, at 33,000 feet, 747. I mean, how good can it get? But I wasn't satisfied in my heart because I was afraid. I had a spirit of fear. And I didn't know what was going to happen when we got to India. Now you got to remember, for the last 9 months, we were fighting an attack of cancer. Remember, we had to go through radiation, had to go through all kinds of things that we had to do. And I'm on that plane, laying out in that bed thinking, what if it doesn't work anymore? What if we get there and nothing happens? And I thought, Lord, am I going in the right direction? Am I doing the right thing? And actually, I could feel this. I could feel this inside of me. And when we talk about enduring, I had a good lesson in it, so I think I can share it with you today. It means nothing seems to be happening. It just seems like everything is on stop. Everything is just there. And it's like when your computer freezes and you can't get the blasted thing to break loose. And you've tried every punch, you've tried this, and you've done everything, and finally you have to turn this stupid thing off to get it clear so you can go on. You may not be able to relate to that, but I can relate to that every day. Gideon's life is such a great story on enduring until victory came, even when it wasn't what he thought it would be. It wasn't what he thought it would be. The process of victory had begun, and it had begun suddenly. He was hiding. He was hiding from God. He was discouraged. And all of a sudden, God God comes on the scene. The angel of the Lord comes there and makes this unbelievable statement. Gideon, the mighty man of valor. And he said, whoa, what are you talking to me? From hiding, listen, this is a story now. We're going to go into the details in the next weeks to come. But he goes from hiding to leading 300 men against 135 warriors, which is quite the deal. Imagine that. 300 people going out against 35 seasoned Midianite warriors. 335,000. I just want to see if you're awake. 2 Thessalonians says, if we can endure, we can see the victory. Now you say, well, I don't think he was really enduring. Well, he was still there. And he must have had faith in God. He was hiding from the enemy. And all of a sudden, God appears on the scene. The Lord appears on the scene. The angel appears on the scene. Whatever interpretation you want. Even while Gideon was hiding, he received a suddenly. I just want you to get that in your spirit today. Even while he was hiding, he received a suddenly. All of a sudden, an angel appeared in his midst of turmoil. We need to be careful that we don't put God in a box. Yeah. Well, can't move that way. You can't do this. Can't do that. Well, yes, you can. A lot of people say, well, it isn't biblical. Let me just pass something on to you real quick. Did you realize that what Peter had preached in Acts 2 about the prophecy of Joel isn't what happened? Do you know that? It wasn't what happened. It doesn't talk about tongues of fire. Joel doesn't talk about tongues of fire. Joel doesn't talk about tongues. Joel doesn't talk about a mighty rushing wind. But Peter refers to it. What it does, it opens the door for God to move. And you and I need to be open for what God wants to do. When we were up in Toronto a couple of years ago, and they started to get gold teeth in the place, whoa. That was not something I was accustomed to. That was not something I was, what was the word for it? I was open to. Until there was a lady about from here to that overhead there, and she started screaming and jumping like a fool, and she said, look, and she had a new tooth in her face, in her mouth that was gold. And I thought, well, there must be something to this thing. She wouldn't act like that. And they were way up there, and she's way over here in the back row. We need to be careful that we don't put God in a box. Sometimes a miracle can come into your life, and you don't even know it. You don't even sense it because you're not open to it. It is so easy to miss what God is up to by thinking it has to happen. It has to happen our way. It has to happen, you know, if it doesn't happen the way we're thinking about it, we're going to miss it. 2 examples of missing a suddenly. One is the demon-possessed woman, a man, in the tomb of the Gadarenes. Remember when he saw Jesus? Now, got to remember, he's demon-possessed. He's in the tomb. He looks like a crazy man. Jesus comes on the scene, and he immediately ran down, fell before him, worshipped him, and immediately he was set free of torment. Amen. Totally out of context. Now, the religious people, come on now, follow me. The religious people, the leaders who had prayed and waited for his coming Messiah, they totally missed it. In fact, they were trying to figure out how they could kill him. Because he was upsetting their apple cart. He was upsetting what they wanted to do. Another one is the religious leaders of the day said Paul and Silas were of the devil. You've got to read the story. It's in Acts. Yet, they met a demon-possessed girl, demon-possessed, who proclaimed openly that they are of God. These are men of God. These are prophets of God. And here it is, history. History is filled with men and women who had prayed for a move of God, yet when it came, they missed their suddenly. It just didn't look like it should. Now, I'm going somewhere with this because I want us to set us up where I believe God wants to do. Gideon knew about the past miracles. He mentions that in this text. He never dreamed in a million years that God would use him.